Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk About It. This is Susan Johnson, and my co-host is off doing great things in the community now, and he will be back next week, maybe. So we will see. But it is summer, after all, don't you think? and so here we are. But we have a fabulous show, and it's just perfectly timed. And I'm just so thrilled because I have here today with me Chris McNaboe from Horizons, the CEO of Horizons, and Paul Rimmer, who has also been working with Horizons for over 22 years. And this is the 34th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And I just have to say, this is a very, very important occasion, and it just happened to be perfectly timed to be on Let's Talk About It, the 34th anniversary, falling right on today. And it's great because we also have wonderful people right here in town working with people that have disabilities, and this is about disability inclusiveness. We want to make sure that people with disabilities are able to join the workforce and be included in everything that we do. And so this Disability Pride Month and the Disability Pride Day, recognizing what George Bush did back in the early 90s, signing this Americans with Disabilities Act into law. And I just have to say, before we get to our guests, I have been working with the SEED Coalition, which is a national group called the State Exchange on Employment and Disability, for the last few years on making sure that we do the right thing in Connecticut with our access to employment, access to resources for people with disabilities. But we are blessed to have here in Windham the Horizons group that does all kinds of fabulous things with that and with people with disabilities. And with that, I'm going to ask Chris McNaboe to tell us a little bit about Horizons. And the CEO is here. So thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks, Susan, for the invite. It's a pleasure to come on. Yeah, this is actually our 45th anniversary of providing services for people with intellectual disabilities, and we've been in Windham the whole time. And we're very much proponents of the work that former Governor Weicker did around the ADA and President Bush and others in their tenure to advance the cause for people with intellectual disabilities to live in their communities and to really have engagement in all kinds of activities, employment, living situations, school opportunities, and a host of recreation opportunities. So that's what we've done at Horizons. We have done all of those programs over the last 45 years and included people where they live, learn, work, and play. It has been a slow growth purposefully so that we could make sure we had the capacity to support the folks that we're supporting. And right now, annually, we're about at 1,400 people that we support annually through all of our programs. We're very happy with the supported living. Many people might know that as group homes, right, from the old days, but now we're really moving into supported living because not everyone lives in a group anymore, first of all, and not everyone has 24-hour supports. So we want to accurately reflect what it is. It's supported living at some level, whether it's 24/7 or 10 hours a week, whatever they need. Our educational supports work with students that are transitioning from their high school program, so around age 18 until now 22, as you know.
Yes, I was part of that group. I sat with a number of people at the legislature in a working group to actually change the ages to make them more reflective of what people needed.
And that was great. That was really a great effort on your part and the whole group that made that happen. So we have some of those folks with us learning to live as adults, and what that means for their education part is that it becomes very practical. We give them opportunities for job sampling so they'll know what kind of jobs they might be interested in once they finally graduate, so they've had a little taste of a variety of jobs. And this community here in Windham is great about giving us opportunities for that job sampling, and they go with their coach and learn different opportunities for jobs. And it has been also a partnership with Eastern Connecticut State University where some students are interested in a little bit more education and have the capacity to interact positively and meaningfully on a college campus, and they're part of the college community. They're able to join clubs, have jobs on campus, be a part of that community. So that's educational support services. And then we all know about the camp, because everybody seems to know about the camp and think everything is the camp, and that's not true, although that's the first program that we started. And the camp is happening right now. We're in week 5-6 of our 8-week summer camp program, and that's going very, very well. Building back slowly each year, more and more capacity after COVID, because that was very, very much a turning point for most human services organizations.
Well, it's also because of the way that you do your camp. You have an overnight camp, and you have your counselors sharing the space and being part of the oversight for your students and the campers. And so it couldn't do that during COVID.
No, it was hard to do that. We did it, but on a day basis for that
Yes,
first year. And then
yes.
once we had the vaccine, we came back residentially, and that was on a much smaller basis. So over the last 4 or 5 years, we've been gradually making that a larger group each year so that we can give the necessary respite that parents need, and also a fun summer experience for the individuals.
And I just want to say it's a beautiful camp. You have wonderful grounds, and you've done amazing work with the buildings there. And I know you're working on some other issues with buildings, and we'll go. But I just want to say hi to Paul Rimmer as
Right.
well, because he is now a job coach.
No, actually, he started as a job
Oh,
coach.
job coach. Oh,
He's
yes.
the director of that last program that we're going to talk about today, which is supported employment and options.
Yes.
So he is
Yeah.
in charge now. He started off as a summer camp counselor many, many years ago when he was 12.
22. I started back in 2001.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, then welcome to the show, and I'm
Thank
so
you,
glad
Susan.
you're here. And it's great that you're still there. You really like the work, and you're doing great stuff.
Yes, I find the work. It's more than work. It's a career that I really enjoy. I really enjoy work supporting individuals that we have, and they're some of the best people I've ever met in my life.
Uh-huh.
You know, they are very unique and very talented and fun people.
Well, that's the point that I think we want to make today, in part because it is about people with disabilities that are very excellent workers, and they can really produce a lot of excellent work. And I mean, we even have here a wonderful artist that's associated with your horizons, and that is the gallery we have right up the street, the Carrie Quirk Gallery.
Right, and that really speaks to one of the points in this whole program that SEED has been really making people more aware of, about empowering people with disabilities to engage in entrepreneurship. And you don't necessarily put those two concepts together when you think about people with intellectual disabilities, but there are a lot of very uniquely talented people that have unique gifts to share with people. And Carrie's a great example that if we hadn't really pushed the envelope a bit way back when, we would not have that opportunity for her. She was in what was widely known back in the 80s as a sheltered workshop. Everybody was. There were no community employment opportunities. We were just deinstitutionalizing then, and we really had to build a system in our community to make opportunities for folks to have jobs and employment. And Carrie was going to this sheltered workshop and expressed to us in the way that she does that she did not like working there. That was not her bag. And so it was because of one coach that had worked with her at the house that said, let's try something different. And there happened to be an adult ed art class happening right here in town. And we said, well, maybe she could go and see if that's anything. She liked to color, and all of us like to color at a certain level. That's not a particular talented skill, a high talent skill. But this one coach thought it was something that could really occupy her. And when the teacher met Carrie, she was doing what all the other students did, a color matching activity on an easel. She came around the room a couple of times and she said, I'd like to work with her. She seems to have a really unique sense of color. Well, and the rest of that is history. Yeah. You know, we signed to her to come back next week and we do some more painting, and she didn't really smile or let us know that was something that she wanted to do, but she did let us know because she kept coming back and back and back. And then this developed into her passion and what she really felt was her voice. Because as a person with autism who's deaf, she has limited ways to express herself. She can sign perfectly well, but the autism she has is the type that really is very heavy, and she's very inwardly focused. She's not an outwardly focused person. So the artwork really is her voice. And as you've seen her work many, many times, it's very colorful and cheerful and bright. Really expresses, I think, what's going on in her mind and what she would like to say if she were more able to.
It's amazing work and beautiful productions of different types of art, and it's just incredibly impressive and very unique. And I know that she's doing quite well in the sales department, I guess.
She is. She's doing quite well, and we're getting ready. It's never too early to talk about Gifted, even though that's not until November. We're going to do another line of her work imprinted on other items this year. We did coasters last year that were very successful. We're going to do more of those. We have the handle bags as well and some other things, but we're going to do a lot more focus on Carrie's work on practical everyday items, because art is not something that you just hang on the wall, right?
That's right, and I guess you had some of the cards as well, greeting cards. I thought those were very nice, and I have some of those, and they are amazing, and I feel pretty proud when I send them out. And
as we add more artwork, she adds more artwork to her collection. We make more and new cards. The latest one I just sent out today as a thank you was her rendition of the frogs. She did a great image of the frogs, and she had that image at the Lyman Museum for a while because they were doing an art show of the artist who made those frogs. So it fit in nicely with that, and some of her frog pieces were down there too. So we try to get her involved in lots of different ways to showcase her talent, and she has a pretty good life now.
It's a great coincidence as well, because what we have here is the Arts and Entertainment District, and that's just where the gallery is. Right. And it fits in nicely with our theater. I mean, we're really developing it. I mean, it's taken time, but these things do take time, and it's a wonderful addition to the Arts and Entertainment District. And I just wanted to check in with Paul a little bit about some of the kind of the process you went through to get to where you are today, supervising the counselors and that sort of thing.
Yeah. I came over back in 2001 from England, and I was a summer camp counsellor. I worked as summer camp counsellor for 3 years, and then I joined the administrative team of the summer camp programme, and then I stayed here permanently. So I became a support coach with our Support Employment and Options programme. I think I was a support coach for 4 to 5 years, and then I got a promotion to be manager, so I was a day program manager. So I used to oversee all our work sites up at UConn. We have a big presence up at the University of Connecticut. We have, I believe, 34 individuals that we now support up in employment at the University of Connecticut. So I oversaw our dining services crew for maybe 10 years. And then I became an associate director, so I then became one of the directors that oversaw half of our employment team. And then 3 years later, I became the director of the whole programme. So we have a supported employment programme, and we have a day support options programme too. So I oversee the larger team, which has now grown to 160 individuals that we support year-round. So we are a 365-day-a-year programme.
That's wonderful. That's absolutely fabulous.
And there was a whole group of his team that were considered essential workers during the pandemic by the governor. They didn't have the option not to go to work. They had to. So we were proud of that designation and to know that we were able to continue that.
Yes, we have essential workers that work up at the Coast Guard Academy and the Groton Sub Base. So we did take some time off from UConn while they were developing their own systems and how they were dealing with COVID. So we actually got a lot of our individuals' employment up at the Coast Guard Academy during the pandemic, which then made sure they stayed in the employment world.
That's fabulous. And we're still, sometimes I think people don't think about the pandemic anymore, but we're still moving our way through that. We're still fixing things like supply chains. We're still fixing a lot of the losses that organizations like yours had over the few years that we had the pandemic. And the university systems also had losses, and we're still working on fixing the university systems back to where they were, and perhaps, I hope, improving all of these situations that we're faced with. But speaking of the universities, tell us a little bit about how those connections work. I think you're connected here with Eastern and UConn and QVCC as well?
Not QV so much, but definitely Eastern and UConn. And Paul was talking about the crews that are there.
Yes, we have UConn Dining dining service, I believe we started back in 1999. We one of our staff that's still at Horizons, his name's Joe, had a connection up at UConn. So I think his mother worked up there. So he got a foot in the door at UConn. So we started off with a crew of 4 at one dining hall, and now we have grown from a crew of 4 to a crew of, I believe we just added one more employment site up there. So we're now up to 26.
Wow.
So we work in 6 different dining halls. So we work there Monday through Friday. Work hours are 10 till 2, and we are a very essential part of their dish room team. So we have typically 4 individuals working each dish room. They have one support coach. So the way funding works is everybody pools their funding together, and that pays for one support coach. There is some individuals that receive one-to-one support for a variety of reasons, but the typical model is for 4 individuals to one support coach. So the support coach goes to the work site with the individuals, and we work alongside our individuals. So we have our apron on, we have the gloves on, we have the hat, and we're on the front line with our individuals doing the work alongside. So
That's wonderful.
And that's the best teaching method that we know about, modeling.
Yes.
Right.
Modeling is so strong. When our individuals see people like Paul and his colleagues doing those jobs, they then assume that they want to be like them, and so they assume the role of a very competent worker, and they model what they see the coaches doing.
Yes, and we like to model, because the best way to teach a work ethic is to show work ethic.
Yes.
And we actually got recognised by the University of Connecticut, I want to say maybe 8 years ago, for our work ethic. So we actually got an award from Dining Services for all our individuals, because we were regarded as so essential, and they wanted to recognise our individuals for their hard work.
That's amazing, and that's just such a wonderful thing that has occurred as we build up interaction with people getting the confidence that they need to work. Because, as you were talking about in the 80s, we didn't have this until the
Right.
Americans with Disabilities Act.
Right.
And now we have the way forward. And modeling, I think that's one of the things that maybe needs to be inculcated more in our school systems.
Yeah, coaching and modeling are the two strongest teaching techniques that we use with our folks, and it is through the repetition of the job that they get better at it. And the great thing about most of our folks is they're not going to get bored with that job. They like that repetition because it gives them confidence to be able to be more and more independent. And as Paul said, even if the crew of 4 can do the job with very little help, our coach is still there finding work to do to make sure that they're valued as well, so that the employer gets a twofer, as you might think. You know, you get 4 folks with disabilities and the coach doing the job, and they're very happy with that kind of work. So we want to continue that modeling, and we want to continue that way of working, because at Eastern, as well as at UConn, we have found that we're highly valued because of that.
Yes, and during the pandemic, well, coming out of the pandemic too, we did used to have 18 individuals at UConn. And after the pandemic, that's one of the positive things that came from the pandemic, is they found more of a need for our individuals. So they actually added 8 positions following the pandemic and moved us into more of their dining services.
And because they work as a group, Susan, what's really great about it is they can have 1 or 2 individuals on the team that have a lot of skill, and they can have 1 or 2 individuals that have less skill and might need a little more help, and the coach can work with them. So it's a very diverse team of people, and if you looked at them at a group, you'd say, I wonder if they can really do this job. But because each person has their niche and has their own level of support and need, we make it work, and we keep it going in a way that's very seamless, and that we bring the individual skill level right to the top and not showcase any of their disabilities, but showcase what they're really good at. And that's the job of the coach.
That is fabulous. And, you know, I'm just thrilled that you're here today, that we have the correct timing. We're celebrating the Americans with the Disabilities Act today, when former President Bush signed it into law in the early 90s. And, you know, it's great to have you here talking about the progress that's been made for people with disabilities and getting them into employment situations. And so this is Susan Johnson. I'm here with Pat McNaboe and Paul Rimmer, and we will be right back after these messages. Hey, welcome back, everyone. This is Susan Johnson, and I'm here celebrating the 34th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, and we're proclaiming today Disability Pride Day because this is the day that the bill was signed into law by former President Bush. And of course, we also have to thank former Governor Weicker for his work with the disability community. He did a lot here in Connecticut as well. And I'm just absolutely thrilled to have the show on this day because I've been working with SEED, which is the State Exchange on Employment and Disability, nationally on these issues. And we have people right here in Wyndham who are doing this work as well. And making these connections is a wonderful thing. So we have Chris McNaboe, and she is the CEO of Horizons, and Paul Rimmer, who has been working and is the supervisor of helping the students get those employment positions. And they're both here to talk about what they're doing here that is really reflective of what we're doing statewide and nationally to try and bring more and more people with disabilities into the workforce. So welcome back, and I'm so glad you're here. And tell us a little bit more about what your procedures are and what you're doing.
Sure.
Yeah, so we always take a person-centered approach when we are looking for employment for any individuals. So what we do is we meet as part of a team. That'll be myself, a program manager, parents, guardians, the individual, and the DDS case manager. And we like to get to know individual strengths and interests because we want to pair people up with employment that they're going to enjoy and they're going to use their skill set. So we try and focus on the things individuals can do, not what they can't do, and we can, and that will be our starting platform for finding positions for individuals. And then once we kind of come together as a team, then it's my job to then go look and canvass places and sell the Horizons way to employers.
And we've been very successful and thankful of the receptivity that we've gotten from local businesses in giving our folks a chance. It starts when they're in the educational support program because they're working on a stipend basis that the employer doesn't have to pay. And so they get a good feeling for what our folks can do so that when they graduate from that and hopefully get into Paul's program with supported employment, the employer knows what that individual with disabilities can do, and they're not taking as much of a chance, of a risk. We found that it's a good environment now for us to be able to get employment for our folks. We have probably more job offers than we have people that can fill them right now, which is the opposite of what it has been for the last, I'll say, 43 years, because we are now in a position of we are reliable. We show up every day, and we don't get bored with doing repetitive work, which are all real saleable skills that employers are looking for, because there were so many people that through the pandemic never did anything in person. They didn't go to school in person. They were really housebound, a lot of them, and they became much more isolated and are having trouble getting out into the work world. We see this with our staff that are coming to work with us as well. So, but it is a good time for our folks with intellectual disabilities to try to get different kinds of employment, and we are working with many folks here in town. Don't we have a person that's working over at Willie Brunau, or is that educational support service?
Yeah, I think that's educational, but we do have an individual working at Blondie's.
At Blondie's?
We have people working at Eastern University in Hurley Hall and at the Student Union. And we have had the Click Kitchen. We've had people go over the Click Kitchen, and some of our students have done various tasks around town at Bliss, at TJ Maxx. And then we also run an options program also. So we have a place right in town, and our folks in our options program, they do a lot of volunteerism. So they go to churches, firehouses, and it's a great program as a platform, because all the individuals that go to the options program, they're learning stamina. They're in a routine, and they're in some tasks that could find them gainful employment. We had a young lady that joined our program last year, and she was, really nervous, really shy, so she joined our options program because she weren't quite ready for the employment world. Well, she is about to be an employed young lady because she's got a job at the University of Connecticut now, and that was through job trials and through UConn being willing to have extra staff to do some job sampling, and it worked out for this young lady. And UConn also give us some substitution spots. So we have some of our individuals that can take the place if somebody's out sick or somebody's out on vacation. They get to go up and sample some work and kind of take the place of the individual that's off. And many of the guys that work at the University of Connecticut now actually started off as substitutes, and they found their niche and they found they really enjoyed it. So that really works out also.
Yeah, and that system that Paul has created lots of opportunities for people that, again, you wouldn't normally think of as highly employable because of a lot of their unique needs that they display when they're working.
Yeah, you just got me thinking of one individual that I actually supported him through his high school 20 years ago, I believe, and he was an individual who's very complex, and most people didn't know what he was going to do, and they didn't think he would have employment. He can't do much. What's he going to do? And once we got involved in our educational services, we took him up to the University of Connecticut, and we took him many places, and he has some physical limitations also, so he can't do every aspect of the job. But what he could do was load the dish machine, and he is great at it, and he loved it, and he actually went on to have a 14-year career loading the same dish machine in the same dish room, and it worked on so many levels for him, because not only did he get the job, but his socialization skills also built a lot, because he's working alongside some of his peers and also some regular UConn workers that used to come in, and they would come in and give him a hug every morning and really just delighted to see him, and it just worked on more than one level for him. It was multi-layered in the things he got from it.
Well, that's really a wonderful point to make, because I think people need to know that you can have people who have intellectual disabilities but are really capable of doing a lot of different things depending on what their capacities are.
Right.
And they're going to be focused and thrilled to be able to get those jobs, and they're also going to love the interaction with other people that they might not get ordinarily.
Right.
So it's a slow process since Bush signed the law, 34 years. Nevertheless, what you're demonstrating here at Horizons through the work that you're doing is actually getting people together and understanding that people with disabilities have a great deal to offer, and they can do so many things for people in the society, and they love doing it, and they love the interaction with other people.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that part about, the crews, we said, well, there's like 3 or 4 people on a crew. And when Paul was talking about this one individual, there were limitations of what he could do. But the other folks on the crew could pick up the things that he wasn't able to do because of his physical limitations. And all together, it became a whole experience that we were able to offer and provide for the employer. And that's one of the things that they really value in what we do.
Teamwork.
Yeah.
And I think one of the big values too is the paycheck.
Yes.
That the individuals seeing that physical paycheck and getting to go to the store at the end of a 2-week period and go purchase something that they work for. There's a lot of power in that.
So when we first started the program, Susan, it was really interesting. There were only 4 people, and they had just come from Mansfield Training School. So they had really never been out of Mansfield a significant amount of time at all. They had to learn how to ride the van to get to our site. They had to learn a lot of things about employment, and what we were doing was helping them ferry brush from one side of our campus to the brush pile. Okay, that was the first job that they were doing. And they had to learn stamina, as Paul said, to stick with that branch and not just drop it when it got to be too heavy or you were tired of it. Bring it over to the tarp, bring the tarp onto the wagon, and then bring it to the pile. And then what we did after they would finish a very brief time of work, we would press a nickel into their palm, and they would run back to the room that we had set up, and there were cups of M&Ms, other kinds of candies, cereal, other things, and they could make a choice and spend that nickel on one of those cups. So they could start to pair the idea of work gets you money, that nickel, and that nickel could buy you that thing that you wanted. And then after a while, and sometimes we had to hold their hand and run back to the room so they didn't just throw the nickel into the woods, and they could hold on to the concept long enough to realize that it got you something that you wanted. And then after a while, they got it, and then we didn't need to do the nickel anymore. We could pay them with $1. And then after the $1, we would take them down to what used to be the gas station Petro Pantry down the corner from us, and they could go in and pick out a soda. And you know where the soda is in any convenience store? All the way in the back. Mm-hmm. So they had to be able to walk all the way through the store, through the chips, through the candy, through everything, and get the soda that they wanted. And then they weren't at the time very good at waiting in line for their turn. So we would call Petro Pantry beforehand and we're saying, we're coming down with so-and-so. He's earned his soda, and we knew exactly how much it cost, but he had the dollar. If it was $1.19, we had the 19 cents. And he would be able to put it on the counter and then get back into the van to go back up the hill, so that we wouldn't have to tax their ability to be able to enjoy that the payoff, and by waiting in line and then getting frustrated that they weren't able to start to drink the soda and all of that. So we taught all of those things incrementally to those four fairly challenging guys, and it worked. And the people from DDS came out and said, what made you think of doing this work thing with people? And we were teachers. So we said, well, I'm not sure what else we would do if we didn't do something meaningful. We're not going to sit around a room all day long, which is, I worked in an institution before we started Horizons, and the concept of doing nothing was very prolific in those institutions. You had 25 people and one aide in a room. So you had to take, your whole time was spent just taking one person at a time to the bathroom. There was really nothing else that you could do with folks. But we started this program, and we had 4 job coaches and these 4 guys, and we were really able to instill in them the concept of work gets you money, money gets you things you might like, and then when you get more money, you get to really go down to the store and pick out what you want. And that, to this day, is still the basis of what we do with a lot of people.
Yes, we always, anybody gets a new position, we always speak with the family or the guardian or the residential team, and we always ask them, once they get the first paycheck, can they spend a certain amount? So they can say, kind of, I do a good job, and then this is my reward at the end of it. And everyone's really good about kind of following our lead with this.
It's so perfect. It's just a wonderful way. And I would imagine that now you have younger people and that they hadn't had the time spent just sitting there, but we have better special ed programs.
Absolutely.
Better integration that way. And then to be able to take this, let's talk a little bit about some of the work I worked on with the transitioning, transitioning from the school into what you're doing now, and the fact that we increased the time frame from 18 to 22 because we felt that this was something that really had to be done, and there had to be more work, more analysis done, so that people would be able to get themselves into a job with this kind of conditioning that you're doing right now. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that has been a very big part of the transition part is really big for most of our students, and that's where they can have more sophisticated opportunities for employment. Like there's a young man that works with us that works up at Big Y, and he had a highly respected position up there, that really had a lot of independence, and they tailor-made the job for his needs once they saw him in action and they saw what he could do. And that's the kind of experience that everybody wants. You start off with the generic job, and then you get added responsibilities that really speak to your good performance and your ability to show up consistently and really deal with some challenges that weather might present or other things that might get in the way. And so the transition programs that we do through the high school programs are really, really important. And that's where some people have gotten the retail experience at Bliss. Is one of the places.
TJ Maxx, yes, many places.
Yeah, and that has led to employment for some people in those scenarios. So you don't know what someone can do until you give them the pricing gun and they're putting the prices on everything in the back room, and then can they stock the shelves with those items or not? Well, let's try it. And we can have the flexibility to do that in the transition program because employers want you to already come and know how to do it. So that's the great value of the transition program. Because once you hit employment, you have to pay a minimum wage. So we have to pay people minimum wage. So we want to make sure they're ready to rock and roll.
Absolutely, and that's it's so good to hear that work that we did a few years back has really come to fruition in terms of getting people employed and getting them conditioned for that type of employment. That transition period is so necessary, and I was really thrilled to be part of that group.
We have one young lady that has the job of her dreams. Almost everybody's job that they have is the job of their dreams, whether it looks like it or not. Even working on the dirty side of the dish room is somebody's nirvana. They love it because
Yeah.
to be able to see it's dirty and then it gets to clean, and I was involved with doing that, that's a huge ego boost for them. But we have one young lady that works down at Mystic Aquarium, and she has memorized the docent script for a number of exhibits down there. The penguins, the sea lions, the stingrays, all different kinds of things. And she is passionate about working there and passionate about animals, sea animals, and loves that job. It is really like, you think of Maslow's pyramid. She's at the top of the pyramid now with doing the job she loves, as some people would say, it's the job of your dreams.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great story.
Yeah.
It really is.
And we have a landscaping crew. You're going to tell
just
about
going
that,
to say
Paul?
that, we actually
please,
developed, I want to say, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, we had a few individuals that had a real interest and passion for landscaping. So we actually started our own Horizons landscaping services. So we have a list of clients that I believe is up to almost 40 people now. And we actually employ six landscapers. So they use the weed whackers, they use the leaf blowers, the turn mower. We're teaching some of our individuals to drive the turn mowers. So they go out every morning, 8:30, they come back at 2 o'clock, and they service maybe 7 or 8 lawns each day. And it's been so successful that now we're actually looking to expand our Horizons landscaping service because we have some more individuals that also share an interest in this. So we're actually going to be looking to grow, and we have a wait list of clients that want to work with us.
I'm sure that you have a lot of people who are very interested in getting help with your landscaping services.
And the only thing that holds us back from hiring more and more is having enough staff.
Staffing is always our shortfall. I actually
coaches.
have 3 other positions that I'm looking to fill with individuals right now, and I can't fill them until I have the staff.
So tell us a little bit about what it would take to become a staff member.
Well, the first thing is that you have to have the time to do it.
Yeah.
You also have to have the passion to want to be taught. As our ad says on WILI, you come with a heart, we'll give you the training. And we can't give you a value base. You have to come with that value base. We don't look for people that necessarily have experience, though. We'll gladly train you and prefer that sometimes, because then you learn it the person-centered way that we do it. But we do need to have people that are able to work for the starting wage of $18 an hour. And for some people, that's great. That's a perfectly good starting wage. But older folks that have had other careers that maybe want to switch and do something in this field, that can be a struggle to start at that wage. And then the other thing we're challenged by is having not a lot of upward mobility pay-wise, because all of those things are capped by what we're getting from DDS. So we're working hard, and you are very well acquainted with that struggle that we have.
Yes, I am.
To make sure that we're continually advocating for higher wages for our folks, because they're professionals. They're not babysitters. They are doing real work with real people, and they really need to be compensated. So if anybody's interested in coming, you should definitely go to our website, Horizons, www.horizonsct.org, and fill out that really brief application. And then Victoria, our HR director, will call you up and have you come in for the beginning of our interview process.
Wow. Go ahead.
And if I can just add, we do actually have, I think it is a pretty great place to work, Horizons, and we do have a number of staff that have been there 10 plus years, despite the wage.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of passionate people.
Wow, this has been a fabulous show, and it's so timely made at the 34th anniversary of the signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act, and I've been thrilled to actually have Chris McNaboe here and also Paul Rimmer, and thank you both so much. They're both from Horizons. Thank you so much for your amazing work and being here on Let's Talk About It, and have a great day, and we'll see you all next week in a brand new show.